What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 best builds in Path of Exile 3.26. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what are their pros and cons, then how do their key mechanics work, then what gear and items should you focus on, then also what are their core passive points and much more. If you are looking for any of these builds on the website for their path of building, then click my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides POE 1 boosting, items and even currency with a cheap price and fast delivery. They have over 17,000 positive comments and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KADE for extra 6% off. So let's begin with how the build works. We are scaling Ignite from Explosive Arrow and the Fire Damage over Time element. Each arrow will apply a fuse, and using ballista totems, you can quickly stack these fuses. Once the fuse timer ends, all the charges will explode, by creating a massive Ignite that scales with number of arrows landed. Therefore, increasing your attack speed is the key to ramping up our damage effectively. Totems like the ballista will scale with your own stats, not like the minions, so your gear directly will influence their power. You want modifiers that boost attack speed, elemental, fire, burning and totem damage, as well as the global damage over time multiplier. Any added damage or the gear helps, since all the types will contribute to the Ignite. Expanding the number of ballista totems is crucial, and can be done via the Ancestral Bond. By using Elementalist, it will offer a strong elemental mitigation, but physical damage will remain a weakness, and this is solved by stacking armor through the gear, determination and the granite flasks, while evasion is covered with the grace and the jade flasks. Bastion of Elements will shield you from the elemental hits, and spell suppression with the right gear will further reinforce defenses. Combined with the chaos resistance and the elemental caps, this setup will offer a very sturdy defense. By being a totem-based build, you can deal consistent damage while avoiding danger, which is very safe, active and fun playstyle for newer players. Next up we have the passive tree, and it is optimized around Explosive Arrow and Ignite scaling. It heavily emphasizes fire and elemental damage, Ignite duration and projectile enhancements. Branching into multiple regions, it picks up life, duration, damage over time multipliers, and crucial notables such as the Heart of the Flame, Holy Fire, Ash, Frost and the Storm. Multiple Jewel sockets will allow for additional customization. Defensively, the build balances over 5500 life, evasion, armor and the spell suppression. And then offensively, you will see over 16 million Ignite DPS and nearly 4 million Burning Ground DPS sustained. The tree also takes key nodes like the Panoptician and the Watchtowers, which will enhance the ballista effectiveness and the maximum totems. Then going through the skill effect duration will further increase the uptime of the fuses, that ensures maximum ignites per explosion. Then damage over time multiplier nodes are prioritized, as they scale ignite damage significantly. Life Mastery, Resistant Clusters and Utility nodes are carefully selected to maintain survivability without sacrificing damage. The use of a larger cluster Jewel can further boost the damage over time DPS, and smaller clusters or Abyssal Jewels can patch up the resistances or the attributes. With proper investment, the tree creates a deadly balance between the raw damage output and defenses, enabling smooth progression from the early mapping to the full endgame content. Then next up, let's go over to the skill gems. The core setup will feature an Explosive Arrow supported by Ballista Totem, Ignite Proliferation, Awaken Elemental Damage with attacks, Awaken Burning Damage and Awaken Deadly Elements. These will amplify Ignite scaling and apply deadly burning effects. You will use all 4 golems, so the Chaos, Stone, Flame and the Lightning. That will give us buffs and survivability, especially when paired with the Ascendancy bonuses. And Arcanist brand setup will automatically trigger the Flammability, Flame Surge and the Flame Ball to increase the fire exposure and Ignite efficiency. Then auras like the Grace, Determination and the Precision are supported, with Enlightenment to maintain mana sustainability and much more. Then Blood Rage increases attack speed and generates frenzy charges. Then Flame Dash and the Arcane Surge provides mobility and the mana regen, while Frenzy adds the charge generation for single targets. Next up, let's go over the gear. Once you're past the campaign, you will find better gear to survive tougher enemies. Use your Chaos Orbs to upgrade any weak items. Focus on getting life on every piece and capping your resistance at 75%. Add crafted mods when necessary, especially for the accuracy. You'll want to hit 100% chance to hit, so check your character stats often. Then Burning Brutality is an easy and cheap anoint early on to get. Don't forget, accuracy gets worse as you level, so plan ahead. Make sure that you're using Skirmish, Brim's Wave and the Storm Cloud, as they are the key to early power. Then, when the game becomes spell heavy, gear with spell suppression will become essential. At about 100% suppression, you will take half the damage from the spells, so get suppression from the gloves, boots, body armor and the passive tree notables, like the Mage Bane and the Reflexes. However, if you're still low, then grab the spell suppression mastery for the lucky suppression rolls. Next up we have gameplay. An efficient totem placement and smooth movement are essential. The core strategy revolves around dropping your ballista in smart positioning, so near the choke points, boss spawns or enemy clusters, while you maintain consistent mobility. Your ballistas will apply fuses and trigger powerful ignites, which allows you to focus entirely on dodging mechanics and positioning. This build excels in situations where the other characters would need to stop and cast. You're always on the move, so letting your totems do the heavy lifting. Then map bosses and the endgame encounters will become much safer thanks to this fire and forget style. Proper pacing, awareness and the preemptive totem drops can make even the hardest content feel easy. This playstyle rewards tactical decision making and allows you control the battlefield from a distance by ensuring a consistent uptime on the damage while minimizing risk. So let's start with an overview. The rolling magma mine saboteur build will focus on stacking offensive scaling through the key stats like increased AoV, additional projectiles and reduced projectile speed for overlapping hits. Then we will boost gem levels, especially for the fire spells, alongside the fire penetration and the spell crit chance and the multiplier, and even various sources of increased damage are all essential. Then the throwing speed, driven by the frenzy charges, and the mine throwing speed is critical for DPS and smooth mine placement. The build also benefits from cooldown recovery, and even uses offensive auras like the Anger and the Zealatory, alongside the effect curses such as the Sniper's Mark and Flammability. Then defensively, the build leans heavily into the elemental resistant cap, evasion, spell suppression, and effects like the blind and the damage reduction from the Arctic Armor and the Flesh and Stone. Then as far as immunities go, to common ailments will be achieved through the Ascendancy and our gear, while physical damage is mitigated via the elemental conversion. Shrapnel Specialist will significantly increase our rolling magma overlap by randomizing projectile paths, and also enhanced by the Great Volley and the reduced speed. Then mines will scale better than the self-cast, especially with the high impact mine support enabling multiple detonations and bonus damage. Then recovery is handled through the substantial life regeneration from Pyromaniac and the Mine Mastery, compensating for the lack of leech or on-kill sustain. Overall, the build is powerful, scalable and with good defenses. Then for our passive skill tree, it's built to maximize the mine throwing speed, critical scaling and the fire damage, while also prioritizing the strong layers of defense. Early in the tree, you want to take key mined nodes like the high explosives and the Monolithness Specialist by boosting mine damage and the placement speed. From there, you want to branch out into fire and the elemental damage, like the Holy Fire and the Lightning of Divinity, as well as critical strike clusters to enable endgame scaling, with modifiers such as the Heart of the Flame and the Elemental Overload or even the Elemental Equilibrium. Defensively, we pick up important life clusters, like Purity of Flesh and Written in Blood, along with the suppression and evasion via the Acrobatics and the Face Acrobatics, which of course depends if you're vested into the Ghost Dance. The tree also makes use of the utility from the Born in the Shadows via the Ascendancy for blinding enemies and passive damage reduction, and even utilizes mastery nodes to balance suppression chance and the reservation efficiency. Also, cluster jewels are added later to scale the mine throwing speed and penetration. Next up, when it comes to skill gems, we focus mainly on maximizing damage, mine placement speed and utility while maintaining strong survivability and the resource management. The core skill is the Rolling Magma, supported by the gems that increase fire damage, critical strike chance, and mine throwing speed, such as the fire penetration support and the minefield support. Automation is a key support gem here, as we use it at level 20 to reach important cooldown recovery, alongside for faster mine detonations and improved overall DPS. DPS. Utility gems will include the cluster traps and the minefield to boost mine placement and explosive coverage, while defensive or situational gems like the flame dash will help with mobility and positioning. Bear trap is also used often for the extra crowd control and utility, but can be swapped out for clarity if the mana issues arise. For boss fights, the gem swaps between the slower projectiles and faster projectiles will improve the single target damage or the clear speed, though this is optional. Next we have gear. Early on, you want to prioritize weapons like the Demon's Horn, with modifiers such as plus levels to fire spell skills, increased spell damage and added fire damage. Crafting a mine throw speed on the wand is a crucial step to increase your mine deployment, which significantly will boost our DPS. For defenses, unique items like the Cloak of the Flame and the Lightning Coil will provide essential resistances and survivability, while Lightning Coil offers additional life recovery, but requires careful resistance management due to its lightning resistant penalty. Then the Stygian Vice Belt is a preferred choice for its life, resistances and the ability to craft mine throwing speed, which enhances both offense and defense. Then Javelry should focus on reduced mana cost, life resistances and critical strike multipliers, with specific attention to crafting a Amethyst or Vermilion ring with a mana efficiency. Then shields like the Kon Ming Strakadem or a crafted Supreme Spiked Shield with a high life, evasion and spell suppression will complement the build's defensive needs, especially when paired with the Born in the Shadows ascendancy. And now last but not least, let's go over the gameplay. You want to begin by throwing mines that are automatically detonated by using the automation support, which creates a consistent stream of bouncing fireballs that overlap and melt enemies in seconds. With a Shrapnel Specialist ascendancy, rolling magma projectiles will scatter in random directions and can return, which will dramatically increase the number of the hits per cast. This interaction is key to the build's incredible single target and the clear speed potential. Then during mapping, you simply want to move forward, drop mines and let the automated detonation do the rest, so screen-wide packs will vanish under a barrage of fireballs. For bosses, stacking mines before triggering them will unleash a burst of damage that can phase or kill targets almost instantly. Overall, the build benefits from a high mine throwing speed, added projectiles and reduced projectile speed for the overlap, and even critical scaling, and all of this make the build both responsive and deadly. Let's kick things off with an overview of the Volcanic Fissure of the Snaking build. This setup shines with a unique playstyle, focusing on tankiness while delivering very high damage output. The core mechanic revolves around the Warcries, which enhances your slams and creates molten fissures that deal very significant fire damage. As you progress, this build allows you to sustain your defensives through the endurance charges, which provides additional damage reduction. The combination of tankiness and range makes you incredibly versatile in both solo and group play. The build's ability to generate explosive eruptions from the fissures will ensure that you will be dealing with multiple enemies effectively, which makes this perfect for both leveling and the endgame content. Next, let's move over to leveling. From level 1 to 67, you will want to focus on optimizing your gear and skills. Early on, prioritize items that provide physical damage increases and survivability through the life and resistances. As you progress, gear like the Chaos Supremacy will become essential due to its high physical damage and the synergy with the build. For your skill gems, begin with the Thunder and transition into the Volcanic Fissure of the Snaking as soon as you can. Make sure to link your damage skills with the Warcry support gems to maximize your damage output. Additionally, using Life Leech support gem will help you to sustain life during the tough fights. Most of the players will go straight to the path of building, so I won't waste your time explaining basic things. But in short, to follow this build, simply select your current progression path down here. For example, we will take level 38 to 67, so we select that here, then click on the skills, and then select the same 38 to 67 right here. And then finally go to the items and select the leveling gear, and here everything will be simply shown to you. From level 1 to 12, this is how your tree will look like. Then as for skills, we go with the Ground Slam as an active skill, and then for supports we get the Rootless and the Chance to Bleed. Then get Blood and Sand and the Frost Blink with no supports. Then next we get the War Banner with Intimidating Cry. Then next we have Leap Slam with Decoy Totem. And lastly we use the Shield Charge. Then from level 12 to 23, this is how your tree will look like. And then for skills we use Southern with Close Combat and Rage. Next we get the Blood and Sand with the War Banner and the Herald of the Ash. Next we have the Frost Blink and Intimidating Cry with no supports. Then we use the Leap Slam with the faster attacks. And lastly we get the Blood Rage with no supports. Next we got level 23 to 38, and this is how your tree will look like. And then for skills, here we will use the Southern with the close combat, melee physical damage and rage. Then next we got Blood and Sand with the War Banner and the Herald of the Ash. Then Intimidating Cry with auto exertion and the Seismic Cry. Then Frost Blink with no supports. Then also the Leap Slam with the faster attacks. And then finally the Blood Rage with no supports. And now last but not least, let's dive into the endgame build. At this stage, your focus should shift towards maximizing your damage and survivability against the toughest bosses and the map encounters. You should aim to have a well-rounded build, featuring very high damage output combined with significant defenses. Utilize Echoes of Creation for that extra damage boost, but be cautious of its life cost, so make sure that your defenses can handle it. I recommend to implement the spell suppression to reduce incoming spell damage further, and keep your Warcries on the cooldown to maintain those vital endurance charges. In the endgame, the build can handle the pinnacle bosses and the most difficult maps, which makes this very versatile choice for any player. So let's take a quick glance at our tree, and this is how it should look like. Then next we have endgame skills, and most of the things we want to keep the same as in the early maps version, we just have very few slight changes. But then lastly and most importantly, in the item section, here is the place where we can either way make or break the build. So for weapon set 1 we have the Vol Axe, while for weapon set 2 we got the Camo Supremacy. Then next we have the helmet called Echoes of Creation. Then for body armor we got the Pain Hide. Then for gloves we want the Rift Nails. Then for boots get the Ghoul March. Then for amulet we want the Defiance of Destiny. Then for ring 1 get Dire Grip. While for ring 2 we want the Empyrean Twirl. Then for belt get the Stygian Vice, while for the Abyssal we want the Murderous Eye Javel. And then lastly we have our passive tree sockets, and for them we mainly want to get 1 Timeless Javel, 5 Cluster Javels and 1 Crimson Javel, 1 Prismatic Javel and 1 Cobalt Javel. Now let's take a moment to discuss the gameplay mechanics. Effective use of your Warcries and maintaining your endurance charges will ensure that you're dealing maximum damage while staying alive. Always be on the lookout for opportunities to utilize your fiery slams in the conjunction with the fissures. The visual clarity of your surroundings can sometimes be a challenge due to the molten fissures, so managing your positioning and awareness will be key. Remember, your goal is to create chaos on the battlefield while keeping yourself safe from the onslaught of the enemies. But besides that, this build is quite simple, just plug and play.